But big breaking news out of the NFL. Cowboys fans have been waiting for a decision. His contract was coming up on the 14th. One day before that, Mike McCarthy will not continue as head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. That is the very latest from our senior NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. This ends a 5 tenure in Dallas, which featured 3 playoff appearances, just 1 postseason win. The Cowboys went on to have a disappointing 7-10 record this past season, McCarthy's worst since his first year in Dallas. Let's bring back in here Logan Ryan. Look, you had some 12-win seasons there, and then you end up on the short end of the stick this time around. Are you surprised for the Dallas Cowboys deciding to move on from Mike McCarthy?
I'm not surprised by this. I know this has been my take that I think they should move on from Mike McCarthy, and I've been disagreed with heavily with some other analysts here at CBS. I just feel like when you have a quarterback of Dak Prescott's level, we can debate that, but he's highly paid. He was up in MVP races. When you have that talented of a quarterback, Dallas has had some talented rosters, great offensive line and defensive line play, but they got old, right? So the rosters age. But when you had this window with Dak Prescott and that roster and CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper and everything they had going on there, they weren't able to get it done. Yes, they won a bunch of playoff games. Yes, they won a division. Yes, 12 games, or regular season games, I should say. But when they got to the playoffs, completely different team. Not the best team in the playoffs, not prepared in the playoffs. Last year, they had one of the worst playoff performances I've seen as a player. I played the Packers the week after. They beat them as a 7 seed. Getting upset at home as a 2 seed is never good in the playoffs. So I felt like McCarthy had his time. He had his run. He did not get it done. I know Cowboys fans have high expectations every single year, and they need to bring a coach in. And I don't know who right now, but they need to bring a coach in to unlock that potential to get the best out of his players, not only in the regular season, but in the playoffs. And I think that's why this move was made. He didn't get fired. He just didn't get extended, and he didn't get extended going into the season. So I think all signs are pointing to this.
You mentioned the playoff wins there. The Cowboys have not been past the divisional round since 1995 when they won the Super Bowl. So it has been quite some time, moving on 30 years now. I mean, as you mentioned, look, we don't know where this is going. What do you want to see from Jerry Jones in deciding to hire this next coach? What do you think he's looking for? We know so much of the Cowboys. It goes back to Jerry Jones. What are you hoping, if anything differently, that he does this time around in searching for a new head coach?
Well, we want to see that Jerry Jones has a plan, right? That's the biggest thing, because sometimes when he's dragging these contracts out late, it's like, what was your plan? What was your plan with the Dak Prescott contract? You waited longer, paid him more. What was your plan with the CeeDee Lamb contract? He held out in training camp, then you eventually paid him, which we all know he should have got paid. What is your plan with Michael Parsons? So you didn't extend Mike McCarthy. You didn't bring him back. What is the plan? Do they have a Ben Johnson? Do they have a top coach in the wings that they can bring in? I want to see what the plan is. He must have identified somebody. If not, he would have brought back Mike McCarthy, and it had to be somebody better than Mike McCarthy if you want to let Mike McCarthy go. So does Jerry Jones have a plan here? And what that is what I want to see, because I know the coaching job in Dallas comes with Jerry Jones has roster management issues over your head. And a lot of coaches want control. A lot of coaches want to understand what the roster looks like. Well, those conversations, is he willing to give up some of that management to the coach? And who is his plan at that coach? That's what I want to see. Is there a plan at the end of this one for Jerry Jones?
I think that's what's so frustrating probably from Cowboys fans is some of those things you mentioned. Look, it doesn't necessarily fall on the coach. It is those contract decisions where he's waiting too long and that he's overpaying a lot of these players, or he's playing what the market is, which is more expensive than what it would have been had he taken action a little bit earlier. So how much does it matter? I mean, what difference can a coach make that he brings in if he were to get a Ben Johnson, who, by the way, we know everybody's going after? I mean, what sort of coach is going to make a difference with this Cowboys franchise?
I mean, great coaches make differences right away. Look at Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers. Yes, they did not get it done in the playoffs, but he got the best out of a lot of his players for that point. Listen, coaching in football matters more than any other sport, because every time the ball starts from a dead ball stop. That means a coach draws up a play versus another coach, and you have a better plan for your players. You can have better success in the outcome there. So it's going to be somebody there and get the best out of Dak Prescott, somebody there and they got to rejuvenate. This roster got old. I played against Dallas. Like I said, when they had great offensive line play and great defensive line play, and they had a young Ezekiel Elliott, and they had a trio of receivers in CeeDee, Gallup, and Amari Cooper, and they had good guys on the defensive side. So I was like, man, this is a talented roster, but they had no plan for the roster. It aged. They didn't make great additions. They only had subtractions. Now they have no running game. So I need to have a coach in to take some of that away from Jerry and figure out the plan going forward. But I think a good X&O coach, somebody that understands what we're doing, you have Dak Prescott, get some more pieces on offense, score points, you could always figure the defensive side out later.
Going into the season, look, this is a Cowboys team, and you mentioned just the talent, the names that are on this roster, and some people said this is a postseason team. It could potentially be a Super Bowl team. If you get the right coach in there, if you have the right plan from Jerry Jones, they went 7-10 this season, and yes, you have the Commanders who are looking phenomenal right now in that division, as well as the Eagles. Can the Cowboys compete next season if you get the right pieces in play in this division?
What are the pieces, right? We got to see what the pieces are. The Eagles have something with Saquon Barkley now that, and a young defense that isn't going anywhere. A.J. Brown's under contract. Devontae Smith's under contract. They got Goddard under contract. Their offensive line is good. And then they have all these great young pieces on defense. So you can't assume that Philly's just going to fall apart next year. They're not going nowhere. And, oh, by the way, this rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, might be the most poised rookie we ever seen. Got the first road victory in the NFL in how many years for a rookie quarterback to do that. So the Commanders, they're going to have money. They're going to bring some players in to build around Jaden Daniels. They're going to get better. So this division is getting better. Now, the New York Giants, I got the helmet behind me. I can't speak on their plan right now. I don't know what that is. So Dallas right now is looking like they're a solid third in their division with an aging roster. So, yes, you can bring a coach in, but we got to see what the players, we got to see what these pieces are. A great head coach and a quarterback is half the battle. I like Dak as a quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. Don't hate on that fact. He is a good quarterback. You got to have a good head coach. That's more than half the battle. But your division is looking like some young, hungry teams are only getting better.
Absolutely, Logan Ryan. We appreciate the time. The breaking news here, Mike McCarthy and Dallas Cowboys not coming to an agreement about his contract extension, so he will no longer be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Added up, there are now 6 head coach openings. There were 6 for a second. The Patriots filled that. Tack on the Dallas Cowboys, making it 6 once again out there. We will have more on this coming up on the other side. To Mike Vrabel there.
More breaking news coverage on the Cowboys and Mike McCarthy splitting up today, according to our senior NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. 5 years in Dallas. The middle 3 years were really good. They won 12 games in 3 straight seasons, but only 1 playoff win. That came a couple of years ago. Did win 2 NFC East championships, but a 7-10 season is the end of the road for Mike McCarthy, whose contract expired, and the Cowboys are not bringing him back. Let's bring in Garrett Podell, who covers the NFL and the Cowboys specifically for us at CBS Sports. Garrett, you spoke with Jerry Jones after the regular season finale. What has transpired here over the last week or so to get to this point?
Chris, thanks for having me on. I would say a lot actually has changed since I last spoke with Jerry Jones in Week 18 after their loss against the Commanders. Because after that game, so when speaking to Mike McCarthy, he said, absolutely, my first preference is to be back as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And Jerry said to me all these complimentary things. He said, you know, Mike is one of the best coaches I've been around. He's had these guys competing like they're going to be in the Super Bowl every week, even though they've been eliminated from the playoffs multiple years. And he said, I really expressed my admiration for Mike McCarthy. And I thought this was interesting, specifically when talking about if he was going to let Mike interview with other teams. He said, I want a coach who wants to be here. You know, we let Ezekiel Elliott talk to other teams and be released because he expressed interest in being elsewhere. Mike McCarthy did not. He said, I absolutely want to be with the Cowboys. So for us to now be at this point where Mike is now a coaching free agent, the Cowboys are moving on, that tells me that after Jerry Jones took the time to talk to players, talk to people around the organization and some of the voices he trusts, he decided this wasn't the way forward. And what I come back to is talking to him after their loss in the playoffs against the Green Bay Packers a year ago, That was a game they went down 27-0, lost 48-32 to the 7-seed Packers. Jerry Jones looked like he might have had some perspiration in his eyes, and he said, that is the most painful playoff loss I've had in my 35 years as the owner of the Dallas Cowboys. I really think Mike McCarthy was almost a dead man walking the second the Cowboys played the way they did in that postseason defeat against Green Bay that day.
Garrett Podell with us, covering the Cowboys on a daily basis, and big news today, Mike McCarthy out as head coach of the Cowboys. So when the next coach comes in, it'll be the 7th Cowboys head coach since Barry Switzer, the last coach to take them to even an NFC conference championship game. So Mike McCarthy not only vacating that position with Dallas, but maybe a head coaching candidate elsewhere, like Chicago, like New Orleans, to name a couple. Let's bring in our Jonathan Jones, who broke this news moments ago. JJ, interesting timing here, because we were about ready to go live to Mike Vrabel and Robert Kraft in New England, and then Jerry Jones drops this bomb. What more can you tell us?
Okay, actually, before we get into Mike McCarthy, because you led like that, Chris, I have to note this. Jerry Jones, the Pro Football Hall of Famer, who at any point over the last week plus could have come to this decision. He could have come to this decision earlier in the morning. He could have come to this decision later in the afternoon. But yesterday, after Mike Vrabel was confirmed as the head coach of the New England Patriots, there was a press release that went out saying that at 12 Eastern, there would be a press conference at Gillette Stadium. And Robert Kraft, who we know wants to get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame, that he would be attending that, obviously talking with the media. And so what happens right around noon Eastern time as Mike Vrabel and Robert Kraft are about to introduce this new era of New England Patriots football? Some big news on the Cowboys drops. America's team. If you want to think that's a coincidence, if you don't believe in rivalries in the NFL, brother, I got a bridge to sell you. So that's just one interesting note. And now, Chris, we can talk about the actual news.
Yes, and that news today is that the Dallas Cowboys and Mike McCarthy are parting ways after 5 seasons, bookend bad seasons. In the middle there was some nice meat. 3 straight 12-win seasons, but the bottom line was only 1 postseason win, and it came a couple of years ago. Our Jonathan Jones reporting that Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys could not agree on a contract and they part ways. So I guess one of the questions here, JJ, is, was this all a Jerry Jones Cowboys decision, or did it have something to do with maybe Mike McCarthy's wishes as well?
I think that it had to do, Chris, with the contract length. I believe this was his 5th season with the Dallas Cowboys, and so he signed a 5-year contract. I've been talking with coaching agents, with other coaches, the last, 2+ weeks about what could happen in Dallas, and several of them said there is no reason for Mike McCarthy to accept anything less than a 4-year contract extension. Sort of the industry standard these days is around 5, sometimes 6. 4 would be on the low end. And we don't know exactly what the Dallas Cowboys were offering. If it was 1, 2, 3, maybe it was 4. Maybe Mike McCarthy didn't have any sort of appetite for something that was less than what he had already signed. But my sources tell me that both sides could not come to terms on contract length. So that at least shows that there was a want to from the Dallas Cowboys. No question about it. One can assume or extrapolate from that Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys wanted fewer years, that Mike McCarthy wanted more years. This is a more long-term security, and they could not find some middle ground.
So last week, the report was the Bears wanted to interview McCarthy, and the Cowboys and Jerry Jones said, no, you can't do that. Does this free McCarthy up to talk to whoever he wants to now? And which teams, JJ, do you think might want to talk to him about their openings?
Yeah, he is absolutely a free agent. He can talk to whomever he wants. Any team that has an opening right now, and we know, of course, there are now 6 openings. Of course, Dallas makes 6, so there are 5 teams that could have interest in Mike McCarthy. They don't have to request permission from the Dallas Cowboys. We heard that the Bears, of course, did that about a week ago. The Cowboys left them on red, if you will. So the Bears can circle back if they so wish. I know there are some reports out there on the Saints. I understand the link and the ties because Mike McCarthy was the offensive coordinator there for a couple of years. before Sean Payton got there. I'm not entirely sure that that's bound to happen, but certainly an interview could take place. And then the rest of them, you know, we certainly will see. You know, Mike McCarthy has been at two places with a lot of pressure on him. The Green Bay Packers, of course, and the Dallas Cowboys. And so if you are a team that needs someone who can deal with the pressures of this job, you know, the market, what goes into winning and losing, all of those things, as well as an offensive play caller. You know, that's a job for someone in Chicago. That's a job for someone in New York, perhaps. And so, you know, obviously we will see now that he is a free agent. I can also tell you this. While teams did not know whether Mike McCarthy would or would not become a free agent, there was an assumption. I'm not saying it was 100%. I'm not saying it was 80%, but more than 50% an assumption that Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys would work something out. And now they have not, and so now any team that is truly interested in him can get their plans together.
And so now the Cowboys need to get their plans together. Who might be on the wish list for Jerry Jones and that family there?
All right, so a lot of names that we could go through, right? I mean, one of the first ones that comes to mind, Steve Sarkisian with the University of Texas Longhorns. Another college coach who comes to mind, Bill Belichick with the University of North Carolina. You know, look, we can just make this whole question about Belichick because that's what you're going to hear, and you're going to hear it over and over and over again. I mean, it is such a Jerry Jones hire, it's not even funny, right? And we know that Bill Belichick still wants the NFL wins record. We also know that he can't get an NFL win in Chapel Hill. And so while there has been flirtation, there's no question about it, while Bill Belichick and his general manager at UNC, Mike Lombardi, have been on the record saying we're not going anywhere, of course, one must say that. I will be very, very interested to see what Jerry Jones may do or say with Bill Belichick. If it gets some legs, that will be absolutely fascinating. You can go down the list of all the coaching candidates, and we could talk about how this offensive play caller could do well for Dak. We could talk about this defensive coordinator who he could bring in an offensive guy and do well for Dak. Or we can talk about the big names and what everyone is going to be talking about for as long as the search goes on.
All right, Bill Belichick, $10 million buyout until June 1st. Then it comes down to $1 million. Jonathan Jones with us here on HQ. We are your place for things like this. Breaking news. When it happens, we've got the people to get you the news and expand upon what might happen down the road, like potentially Jerry Jones going after Bill Belichick. HQ, news highlights, scores from the NFL. It's all right here.